Hey guys! So welcome to Wine About It Wednesday. What is the date? It is the 31st. It is the last day of March. I mean, I know there's like March Madness going on in the basketball world, and like, yay, we can play basketball because I love basketball. I'm a big fan. But, you know, with COVID, everything's all crazy, but it is great because in Wellington we have like our own version of March Madness where we always laugh about like January is going a little slow and February gets a little bit faster, and then like by March it's just like a full runaway bolting March. So it's the last day. So here we are. Thank you all for joining. I have my wine. I got a fancy glass tonight. That's fun. So yeah, it's April tomorrow. April Fools. Oh boy. Don't pull any jokes on me. Which of course just invites everyone to pull a joke. Yes, what happened last week? Well, let me just say first tonight, what I'm going to talk about was inspired by one of my friends who I ride with down here in Florida, and we had a great conversation and it just brought it up. So we're going to talk about tonight how to handle the situation when your trainer doesn't really believe in your horse. Like, how do you handle that difficult situation? But before we delve into that, just so you guys know what we're talking about, I was not organized enough to post it earlier, so I will hopefully get better at doing that so you guys can like know what's happening. But you know, we always have something interesting to talk about, so you know, you should always join. So tell your friends, come have a glass of wine. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. So before we get into that, I do want to thank everyone who joined the Academy. We're really excited. We've got 122 new members, so that's great. We are on TikTok. Check us out. Share your videos. We would love to have you guys send in your own videos and stitch them onto what we're doing. Anyway, TikTok, I was a little hesitant at first, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, what is this TikTok thing? And it's sort of addicting, and you're gonna get pulled into the TikTok vortex, and then you're gonna love it. So you're welcome. We also have every Friday, we have a new podcast, so check us out, Dressage Life with Tate on Apple, which still, I freak out a little bit every time I say that. And like every time I see Fiji on the Apple Podcasts, I freak out and do a little cartwheel inside. If you guys missed the enrollment into the Academy, you can still find your way. Look into the fundamentals. That's like our basic group of videos mixed in with a lot of our good lectures from earlier last year. We opened the doors in June, and so we did some really great riding demos that went along with some of my lectures. So that's in the fundamentals. And then there is a back door to, if you want more, you can join the Academy. So we'd love to have you. Yeah, and so yeah, let's delve into how to deal with some difficult conversations. So one of the things, you know, it's never easy when you have a horse you love, and this is not a horse that scares you, or it's not super expensive, or it's not uber talented, but like you love it. You love it, and it's not a harm to you. And you just feel like your trainer is always sort of like not that excited about it, or a little bit negative about it. How do you handle that? You know, we've all a little bit been there when you feel like the chemistry maybe isn't working. I mean, right? Not everyone has married the first person they have dated. So it's a little bit the same thing. So one of the big things I want to remind everybody is to really be brave and always, always, always be your horse's best advocate. They do not have a voice, and so when we feel like the energy is just going in the wrong direction, or there's like a high level of annoyance going on, like, be brave and speak up for your horse, because as I've talked about in a lot of different lives, like, we are those horses' voices. And so it's important for us, whether it's they're not well or they're sick or you really think something's wrong, you've got to speak up. But that also goes in with, I just don't think the chemistry is really working with the trainer, you know, and you always have to make the right decision to do what's best for your horse, because again, he is relying on you to help facilitate a good experience for him. And yeah, there are times in training that are tough and we have to really like push through to the other side. But there's also like, if it's just you feel the trainer just does not believe in that horse, then it's just negative energy. And nobody needs to be surrounded by negative energy. Life is too short, let me tell you. What last year taught me is life is too short to be anything but working on finding your bliss. So I also laugh when I talk about it's okay to have a difficult conversation, because my dad was just visiting in town and he always would help me deal with having difficult conversations. So, you know, we would talk about money or like whatever, and he's like, see, we all made it out alive. We talked about a difficult conversation and we're all okay, you know? And so I want to help everyone also like share that advice that my dad always helped me. And we would always laugh that like nobody died, I mean, at least not yet, from a difficult conversation. And for sure it's not easy, and I think it's important on how you approach touchy subjects for sure. And it's not even so much sometimes what you say, but it's how you say it. And we'll get a little bit deeper into that a little bit later as well. But it's okay to share how you're feeling. And it's okay to speak up for your horse and share what he's feeling or what he's thinking or how you think it's going. It is a very close relationship with horse trainer, rider. Everyone has to be on the same team, and everyone has to, you know, be positive. And because again, like negative energy is just not great, but it's okay to have a difficult conversation. I would also say everyone is a great trainer when things are going good. You know, when you're winning and the horse is learning things and the rider feels like they're accomplishing something. But let me tell you, that's a tiny window of when all things go right. That's really what like pulls us into loving dressage and spending all our time and energy and money on finding those moments again that are so great. We love it so much. But there's going to be a lot of times that is not easy. Learning comes from the struggle. So there is going to be struggle. And it's 100% okay to accept that, you know, and be in that. But you need to really find a trainer who enjoys a challenge and who will work to find the answer. You know, again, like everybody's happy when everyone's winning, but you can't win all the time. So at some point, it's like not going to go great, and you're going to run into a bit of a speed bump in the road, and it's about how you handle that. Like, how do you handle when it's not going great? Like those, you know, they're like, play like a champion today, but it's also like, yeah, deal with difficulty like a champion too, because it's really easy to act like a great champion when all things are going your way. Who are you when it's not going your way? And it's important to be able to like dig in and unpack some stuff. And sometimes those are things you don't really want to hear about, like, oh, I'm pulling too much, or I was impatient with the horse, or I need to really strengthen my core because my seat isn't strong enough. I always laugh and I'd be like, when I'm teaching, like I'm sort of like the deliverer of the bad news of, hey, he's not through enough, he's not balanced enough, your leg, your position needs to be better. Like very rarely does the trainer just sit there and be like, good, looks great, that's perfect, right? Like, okay, first off, we're all perfectionists because we love dressage so much. So there is always a way to do it better. We're always seeking the excellence, you know, of the 10. And then there's like 27 movements. So then you can get 10, 27 times in a row, which is of course not possible. But it's that being able to, when things aren't going great, to really look for the answer. And that process is very different for a lot of trainers. And so you as a student and the advocate of your horse have to make sure that jives with how you learn, or how, you know, you work through things as well. And again, like as trainers, we don't have the right answers all the time. Like we're not like, I am the all-knowing horse trainer, I will always guess, you know, have the right answer. And it's like a lot of times we get on if there's trouble, and we've like attempted 5 different things before you're like, wow, you just get on and it's just fine when you ride it. And it's like, yeah, that's already because I did like 4 different approaches and this one stuck. But we can change it pretty quick. But it's important to, you know, find a trainer that wants to make an effort to find the answer. I always laugh because I'll have students that be like, I have a question. And I'm like, I have an answer. And if I don't have an answer, I will get back to you tomorrow. And I will find my books and I will look up what we're talking about and I will give you the answer. But I always laugh about like, I have a question, and questions are always okay. I love to answer questions. I mean, that's half the reason why we do this. In the academy, you know, I answer everyone's questions under the videos because I want you guys to have clarity and transparency. I mean, I grew up and there was always like this magical thing everyone was doing and no one shared what the heck was happening and how they did it. It was like, wow, you taught him a flying change. How, you know, wow, you know. Well, there's like lots of different ways. There's lots of different ways in the academy because I want to just share. Clearly, I'm a sharer. But I think that's also important, and why I've been a successful teacher is because I find joy in being able to break it down, take it back to the basics, and again, find that least common denominator. Oh, you know, he's slamming to the halt and you know, wants to rear. And there's a lot of reasons why horses rear, you know. Does he have, you know, a tooth problem? Is he, you know, we had this one stallion who was very dominant and he did that, you know, because he wanted to be dominant, you know, and then they can be sore in the back. They can feel like they can't go forward. They can, all kinds of, they can feel like it's too restrictive in the rein. Like there's a lot of reasons, and we always say, it's not only one answer for those things. Some horses need to be talked off the ledge. Some need a swift boot in the rear and they need to run for their life for a minute, you know, but that's not every single case. And we need to be able to have a trainer that believes in that horse and wants to find the answer and wants to dig in and help find that answer as well. And again, we need to all become horse trainers. You know, there was a couple different articles going around on Facebook about where are all the horse trainers coming, you know? And it's hard because there's a lot of people who can purchase a good horse, and if that horse is difficult or whatever, not working out, you know, they can just sort of sell it or retire it or whatever and just get a new one. And we have to be able to, like, I don't know about you, but my money tree is just, it's just not growing. So we actually have to learn to work through problems and figure out where in the basics can I help that horse understand this concept, because there's a way to work through it. And again, it's also interesting because we have to figure it out. And I always think of one of my trainers who would always just be like, train your horse, put him on a 20-meter circle, train your horse. It's not about being fancy. It's not about flinging the legs around. Just put him on a 20-meter circle, do some transitions, and just train your horse. And again, the learning really comes from those moments of struggle. So as Brene Brown always says, like, embrace the suck. Know that growth is coming when you're in the middle of a difficult thing. It might be growth about learning to ride better. It might be growth about learning who your horse is a little bit deeper. It might be growth in learning to have a difficult conversation. It might be growth to find your voice and change a situation that you're in. You don't really know what the growth and the lesson that's gonna come, but you need to remain open to it so you can really embrace it and move forward. I think it's also important to think about too, when is the moment, I'm talking about, working through problems and finding a trainer that will help you work through these problems, but it's also important to know when is that moment to cut bait and just be like, this is not working. I either need to put the horse in training with my trainer, I might need to sell it, I might need to call the vet out. There's all kinds of reasons why problems may come up, but it's also okay to have it be that, like, that's not the right match for me. You probably dated a bunch of people before you got married, so maybe this is one of those. It's just like, I'm just not that into him. And it's not for forever. And then there are other horses that can be a giant pain in your ass, and you're like, I love this horse, I don't care, I love him so much, I want to work it out. But I do think also when there is fear involved, it is important to be truly honest about that. And then for sure, not a lot of learning can happen when there's so much fear. And so I think it's important to be truthful about that and make the right decision going forward. Again, when we talk about, like, what is the learning, I think, and I've certainly had a couple of horses that had me really think outside the box and, venture down some natural horsemanship stuff, or, venture into more groundwork, or venture into some round pen work with the horse loose, and just like relationship building. I think it's important to be open to those, again, open to those lessons that are presenting themselves to really get the most out of the situation that is being presented to yourself. And then I laughed because I wrote down, sometimes the path is not clear until it's clear. And we don't know until we know. And then sometimes we don't even know we don't know. So who knows why this situation is happening? Because sometimes we don't even know what we don't know. So we have to be open and pay attention. And as my friend Lisa always says, more shall be revealed. So even if you're not sure what it is, like, just keep walking down the path and the next lesson will be revealed as well. And I really believe this, and that's also one of the reasons why we have Norma in the academy, who's a 20-year-old darling Morgan, owned by Alice Greenstone. She's a doll, and it's like, she's in the academy and she's 20 years old. We are not going to be showing you her Piaffe and Passage, but she can get better, because every single horse can get better. And that's the kind of trainer you want to find for your horse, that sees the little steps and can help that horse take those steps into betterment. Whether that's less spooking, more relaxation, more partnership, more expression in their gait, more throughness, more cooperation, smoothness in their gait, better connection. Like, there's so many things that can be improved. And it's not always the subject of like, well, the flying change, it's kind of like break that down and figure out, why that's not working. And then again, like, really approach it, in a different way, and be open to that thing. We always talk about every horse has their own Olympics. And that, for that horse to canter around on the right lead quietly with their tongue in their mouth and not spook and try to run off, like, that might be that horse's Olympics. And it's important to have a trainer that believes in that the horse can get there and can also figure out how to get there, instead of being like, well, like, I don't even know why you bother with this horse, because he has no talent and he's always gonna be like this. And it's like, yeah, but like, that's your job to figure out how we can make this different. And there's a lot of different ways, to make that different. But again, sometimes you gotta think outside the box, and you gotta keep chopping the wood, and you gotta keep showing up. I just talked about this with Jane out at Poinciana the other night. Jane Cleveland, who has amazingly built this beautiful place that we board at over the wintertime. We were laughing about 80% of life is about showing up. And we're both like, well, I think it's a lot more than just showing up. But it actually is a lot. Like, you have to show up and chop the wood. And then it's a lot about time and also thoughtfulness. I chose the word thoughtfulness because it has to be an interaction with this horse. Hey, I'd like you to go like this. Are you capable of doing that? Oh, if not, how can I help you become more capable of that, And not all trainers are the perfect fit for horses, right? I had a young rider come to me, and she had a very naughty horse, and she'd fallen off like 100 times. And, had I trained that horse thinking, well, he's just a real jerk and he's never gonna do anything, he's never gonna make anything of himself. It's like Allie and I always joke about, like, do something with your life. And his former trainers kind of just thought he's never gonna make it because he's a jerk. And, the horse went to young riders. She got her gold medal at the Grand Prix on the horse. She did the Brentina Cup with the horse. And the most important thing is she learned a ton how to train a horse with this horse. But he stopped his shenanigans and, wasn't that jerk, because there was a way to show him the way, and there was a way to teach her, who she's very talented and did a great job with this horse. But had we continued to treat that horse like he was a big jerk, well, then he would have just continued to be a big jerk. But instead it was like, there is a way to train this horse. Let's get to it, chopping the wood. And so I do think if you've exhausted all the options and you need to leave, right? Like, it's just not working. This trainer just continues to have the same problem with the horse, and just everyone is always frustrated. It doesn't have to be like that. And every day the horse feels like he's not enough, and he always does this every day, scurries off at the canter, or this whatever, these gaits are not fancy enough, and I should only be on fancy horses. And it's like, listen, you've got to ride and learn. So if you're a young professional, ride everything you can put your bum on. If you are a young rider, ride everything you can get your bum up. If you're an amateur, you got a full-time job and a family, so you probably can't ride everything. But really find a trainer who helps you learn, you know, in the way and in the level that you're ready for. And so if you have to like get into that conversation of like, ooh, I think I need to leave, because there are ways to not burn bridges. And I would say, you know, speak kindly but clearly, and 100%, and most importantly, be honest. Because, and I do think it doesn't come to that place of, what I mean by being honest is that there's been a dialogue going forward about this. It isn't just like, well, this isn't working, I'm leaving, you know, because that's just never great. And that doesn't leave a good taste in anyone's mouth, no matter what. I do think it's important to be having a dialogue of honesty. I feel my horse is frustrated. I feel like you don't believe in him or me. Could we attempt a different approach? Could you help me understand whatever it is? You can always start a sentence with I feel, right? Like no one can ever argue about how you're feeling is wrong. Like you have the right to feel how you feel. And I love can you help me understand why we're doing this? You know, and if your trainer doesn't want you to ask questions, well then that probably is pretty clear how that's gonna go. But again, like you really wanna, even if it comes to the point that you have to leave, totally be honest about it. And I think when people are blindsided, that's really feels wrong. But I think when it's a dialogue of my horse isn't totally happy or I'm not totally happy, how do you think we could change this to get this going in a more positive direction? You know, that you totally have the right to say that. And again, going back, you are your horse's advocate, so it's up to you to find the right person for you. Some trainers are better with complicated horses. Some trainers are better with naughty horses. Some trainers are really good with vet stuff, which is probably at the end of the day why your horse is being naughty. You know, so let's start there, you know. Some trainers are really good with groundwork and can really work on relationship building. But it's okay to leave the situation you're in if that's the best thing for your horse and you've been really upfront and you've attempted to work it out, you know. Sometimes the growth, you know, if you don't have a conversation with your trainer, how do they know they're not doing a great job? You know, and I think when you really approach life in, when I know better, I want to do better. Maya Angelou, love her. That's why we use that in the academy, because yeah, maybe the growth, maybe it's an opportunity for you to help your trainer grow. But if you never say anything and just get frustrated and leave, I mean, that's not helpful for anyone. And then all of a sudden you're the difficult client. And you're not the difficult client. Maybe you're just looking for a different type of system that's not working for your horse. And then that's not being difficult at all. That's being a wonderful advocate for your horse. So cheers to you. You just need to really work on finding the right match. And again, like it comes down to chemistry. It comes down to education. Again, you should have an open door with your trainer to be able to ask questions. And again, as my dear, smart friend Lisa always says, always just do the next right thing. Give the trainer a chance, have the difficult conversation, even if it's about how you learn. You know, like I sort of did this about the horse and you being the advocate for your horse, but it's also important to find your voice about if it's not clicking for you. Not all people teach certain people the best way, and that's okay. We're all different. And if we're all working in a community to build everyone up, and as a whole we get better, then that's what's great about having a community. And certain personalities are going to match better with other personalities. And find your voice, be clear, be kind, but most importantly, be honest, because sometimes we're not sure where the lesson is in the situation. And we have to be open to that, listen to our horses, and always do right by them, because they're amazing animals and we're blessed to be able to be around them every day. So, cheers to our wonderful horses. Cheers to you for being their best spokesperson. And yeah, here's to believing in every horse that they can find their own Olympics as well. So thank you for joining me tonight, and I will see you guys soon. Make it a great night. Bye.